talk about epiphanies, which we have already discussed. When an epiphany occurs, it hurts us, it pains us. He tells the story of a North American country singer who writes a book, and she says that she already had an established career. She had made a name for herself. But there was a singer she considered much better than her, and she dreamed of doing what that singer did. High-level original songs, quality music, she did not want success. That was your main goal. She wanted to contribute a song, quality music to the world. And one day, she dreamed that she was sitting in a group of three people, and there was this singer she admired, and a gentleman, an elder between the two, named Art. And she tries to join the conversation. This Art was having an animated conversation with the singer she admires. She tries to turn in on the conversation, to give her 2 cents. This Art looks her up and down and says, "We don't accept dilettantes." I don't talk to dilettantes. Do you know what a dilettante is? It is an amateur. A guy who does not commit to anything, takes their dream lightly, works when there is time left, if there is time left. When it starts to get deep, he finds something to do to avoid moving forward. In other words, I don't talk to dilettantes. She said that this dream was so intense, it made her feel so humiliated, that she looked at herself in the mirror and remembered Art's words, "You are a dilettante." And this made her turn her life inside out. In the sense of starting from the bottom, with humility as an apprentice, to improve her writing skills, to enhance her composition abilities, to work on her voice, to start all over again with dedication, with seriousness, so she could be considered a professional and not a dilettante. A dream, an epiphany. That was a way for our unconscious, as Yum would say, or essence, as philosophy puts it, to push our little cow off the cliff. It awakens, as we have already mentioned, humility, a sense of reality, and humiliation. You feel humiliated, and that is good because it awakens the grit and the will to fight back. No, I am not staying in this. I will leave here, and it is going to be now. Therefore, when you feel belittled and humiliated, you realize this. Let go of the fantasies of grandeur and see what you truly are. A tremendous desire, a fierce determination to build what you can become arises. 1,000 times a desert in the real world than a castle in the world of fantasy. And sometimes this epiphany does that. Goder and Kuf. It bursts the bubble of our dream, and we fall hard into the desert. But it is good. The desert is solid ground. We can start building something solid, consistent, real, and necessary. The birth of human will begins. The professional does not get distracted and is tough on themselves. They are courageous. He makes a sacrifice of many things. From a mundane life, a life full of excesses, of personal satisfactions. From a life where he does what others like to be admired, to be flattered. He gives up many things. But he says, look, this isn't the worst. The professional, in truth, takes these challenges lightly, almost playfully. He knows that the real ordeal lies in confronting his own doubts and shadows, his own internal demons, constantly trying to overcome them. The hardest part is precisely maintaining this conviction on a mental level. I always teach my students that will is such a powerful attribute that for India. They consider it the most divine aspect of man. They call it Atma, the pinnacle of human structure. It is the part of God within us. And willpower is built at our level by two things: decision on the mental plane and perseverance and consistency on the physical plane. I want to be a better human being. And on the physical plane, working without haste and without pause. If someone wants to stop you, first, they can attack you physically, hold you back, and make you lose your rhythm. Well, it is kind of annoying, but you'll bounce back soon enough. Or it attacks on the mental plane and plants a seed of doubt, like, will it be? Is this really it? Is it worth becoming a better human being? Look, all your college friends are making fortunes, they are super admired, and here you are. Careful, think, did you say, will it be? You have lost everything. You see. Therefore, we need to be most careful. This even happens as an international strategy in times of wanting to undermine another country. A clever country adopts a very Machiavellian strategy when it wants to undermine the strength of another country. You can go there and confront it militarily, making it break its growth rhythm. This causes harm, I won't deny it, but it can enter the mental plane and make it assumed of everything that is a symbol that is enough, which is identity. I remember when World War II ended, Japan was devastated. The emperor comes and shows the weapons, the comb, the mirror of Amaterasu, the sun goddess, and says, "Look, we are children of the sun. We will illuminate all of this here. We are children of the sun. We will rebuild." And look at the speed of Japan's growth. The myths are lived. Now imagine, instead of sabotaging Japan's concrete actions, entering the collective imagination and start to make people start thinking that this whole thing about heritage is a joke. What sun? Are you a child of the sun? No one is a child of the sun. What are you? Are you a planet? A comet? You are none of that. It's ridiculous. Now you are falling for a little story to alienate the child. Who are you to believe in that? It starts to alienate the person from these subtle elements, which are myths, which are identity. Sometimes by attacking folklore, attacking mythology, attacking traditions undermines the decision. Well, the rest is very easy. The rest is very easy. You crumble quickly. Therefore, real power is a decision on the mental plane. I want to leave here greater than when I came in. I want to contribute, delivering my message to the world. What Marcus Aurelius, the great emperor philosopher, used to say: "The death of a single man impoverishes me." This means a unique and irreputable universe with which has ceased to make contact. If I don't speak my word, much can be lost in the world. If I don't speak my word, the symphony, the music, the song of life will be much less beautiful. This note, this contribution that I brought will be missing. I don't accept any other possibility. I will leave here having spoken my sacred word, my hieros lobis. As the Brutus Demopeda says, more than 1,000 meaningless words, one word that brings comfort to the listener is worth more. And I have spoken mine, I have delivered, I have given my message. This is my decision. If I manage not to let doubt in, then nothing can hold you back. And it is a force, the human will. Where there is a will, there is a way, as the saying goes, and it says it quite rightly. The symbol of willpower is Excalibur embedded in the stone. How can tell the handle, however hard that a rock may be, a well-tempered sword is capable of piercing it? There is nothing in the material world that is capable of opposing a well-forged sword of the human will, that is Excalibur. So, the greatest courage required of the professional is the daily confrontation with those who try to undermine their decision. Your doubts and your inner demons. And that makes him a strong individual. And if you conquer there, my dear, it is hard to be defeated elsewhere. He is very well prepared to face adversities. He has a very well-forged character. So, the professional, to recap, he is capable of delaying gratification. He is happy with what today has given him. He does not wait for tomorrow. Read Ithaca. As you can see, each day of the journey becomes fulfilling. You don't get anxious waiting for the arrival in Ithaca. Each day of the journey becomes fulfilling. He is not anxious about anything. He is fully committed to the present moment, to the present life. This ability to delay gratification, Pressfield always talks about it because it is mentioned by Krishna in his dialogue with Arjuna in the Indian Bhagavad Gita. We all have the right to work, but not to the fruit. The fruit belongs to the same source that gave us the inspiration. Inspiration comes from the whole. We are vehicles, and we have the right to participate in this plan of nature. The fruit belongs to the same source that gave us the inspiration. He quotes in the War of Art a passage from Krishna, "Give me the fruit, purged of expectation and selfishness. Focus your attention on the soul, act and accomplish for me." This is the divine speaking to us. Act and accomplish for me. Therefore, if I am connected to the present moment, To my current work, I am eager for the fruit. I find fulfillment in what is within my hands. Do not wait for inspiration. That is also very beautiful. He always insists on this. I will wait for inspiration to arrive. No, you sit down and work. The Mises likes to see you sitting there doing your things. She appreciates discipline, order, and sacrifice. I sat down, did my work, and there was no inspiration. It matters not. You were responsible. You tried. He talks about days he crumples paper and throws it in the trash. I fought my battle till the last moment of the time. I dedicated myself to this task. Today, the inspiration didn't come, but I did my duty. Therefore, sooner or later, it will come. In other words, the muse appreciates order and responsibility. The muse follows the trail of professionals, not amateurs. She doesn't like dilettantes. He reiterates the idea that we can and should learn from those who know more, that we must never lose faith in our ability to contribute, to bring something new, unique to the world, in our individuality and our identity, not to be a slave to the chains of trends, not to give up the right to build our own life. In other words, not to regress from sapiens to Neanderthal. It is a great achievement, the pursuit of wisdom. And just the pursuit already gives us the ability to connect with things that are tremendously inspiring for us and for those who will see this world through our eyes. The best thing we do for those we love is to grow. Only then can we assure them that we will always be with them, our love will be of quality, and also provide them with a life reference that is worthwhile. The best thing we can do for those we love is to grow as human beings. And then he insists on the matter of iconization. What is iconization? Idolatry. Every responsible person, that is, every professional, hates being idolized. And when things start to get overly effusive, with too much flattery towards his personality, he withdraws. I remember once, in a documentary, I heard our very dear Nelson Freire, the wonderful Brazilian pianist, saying that when the applause becomes too much, he prefers to withdraw because the merit is not his, the merit belongs to the music. That is a professional, a true professional. A professional does not like to be idolized by anyone. The professional, he is very willing to teach others everything he knows. He loves it. He does not charge royalties or copyrights. What Pressfield is doing in this book is exactly that, kitchen, handing over on a silver platter, everything he has acquired through his own experience to become a professional. But I doubt he would tolerate anyone idolizing Steven Pressfield. No one who is truly a professional likes that. In other words, not for selfish reasons, but because they know how destructive the dynamic iconization is for those who are iconized. In other words, the professional does not let that happen to him, knows that this will make the person weak. In other words, I don't do it because I am not Steven Pressfield. He's very special. No, he is a man just like you. If you did it, you can do it too. I don't let people idolize me. It is not out of selfishness, but because I want that person to realize that I am the same as them. I am nothing special, and therefore he can too. Idolatry creates a chasm where you remain a fan, never becoming the professional yourself. He went on to say that it might seem counterintuitive, it might seem strange, but to reach what is superior in what you do in the common world, you must seek with humility, perseverance, consistency, and responsibility to achieve perfection. In other words, to reach the flow, the magic of the higher sphere, we start by being ordinary, mundane, hardworking. He gives the example. I find the simile, this metaphor he creates, very beautiful. You are humbly there, feeling the stone wall every day, with perseverance and consistency, dividing the fields where you already felt. When you think you cannot go on, you find a lever to the secret door. In other words, well done work, work that has merit, work where you leave the best of yourself, will give you access to a higher realm. The Mises appreciate seeing effort and responsibility. They tell those who take life seriously. So, by doing and giving your best, there is a quote from a philosopher of the last century, Milicantus Round, where he says, "You must lose your heart every day and then go in search of it. And you will realize then that your heart is the heart of all things. In other words, everything I do, I put my whole heart into it. Then I will realize that truly the heart of all things is closely akin to mine. It seems like there's a thread that connects all the hearts in the universe. Have you ever had that feeling? And if I connect my heart with the heart of the small tasks I do, like cleaning the floor, if I wash a piece of clothing, I grow wicked, I gain merit. I will give the being the utmost value they possess by right, for being in the world just as much as I am. And by doing this, I find my own worth. I will access a higher level of understanding with each step. So I will go to my utmost. I give my heart every day. Once I read in a text, an Eastern philosophy text, it said that the only attribute we can perceive in hearts, in God, in the universe as a whole, in God Himself, the one is that it has a movement that resembles a heart. It expands the universe and contracts. They seem like the diastolic phases of a heart. So, like this single movement, the only attribute we can perceive in the one, in the whole, in God, it is likely that it is a great heart. And in this way, it must communicate with the heart of all things. When a person finds their heart as a symbol of the center of their deepest identity, they stand at the entrance of a long temple corridor. He increasingly traverses the heart of all things until he reaches the heart of God. There is a close kinship between all the hearts in the universe. Therefore, when you find your heart and infuse it into everything you do, you somehow connect with the heart of the world. You access the higher sphere. That is a professional. That is how they act. When we do work for the sake of work, we will increasingly transform whatever we do into something elevated and noble. You might have heard about that person in a company. For some reason, they removed him. He was managing a large department, but for some reason, they took him out and put him to work in the lowest basement, taking care of a tiny archive. All right, fine, they put in there. When you look again, some time has passed, and that tiny archive in the lowest basement has developed so many wonderful ideas that it is influencing the entire building. And soon enough, everything in the department is gravitating around the lowest basement. In other words, he works wonders. If you give him the smallest thing, he works wonders. Why? There's the spirit of the professional. He puts his heart into it with such intensity that whatever you give him, he will work wonders. He will turn that little thing into the most important part of the 12-story building or more. The lowest basement, a tiny archive. That is a professional, and being a professional is no joke. He acts with willpower and determination. It is a divine attribute. It is no joke. This person, he is not here to play around. He is here to take life seriously and fulfill it, just as we all have the duty to fulfill. So, this becomes a practice, and this practice of engaging with the world in this way gives you an extraordinary emotional stability. Pressfield says exactly this. My work has always supported me. It supports me to this day. The world trembles around me, but I have this access. I am secure there. I don't depend on circumstances. My work supports me. It gives me security. Whatever is left in the world, I will benefit. If I remain, of course. I always give an example in the classroom, which is to imagine a statue on top of a table, and this table has 4 legs. When you cut one leg of the table, it wobbles and the statue probably breaks. Let's say it still balances with 3 legs. If you cut the second one, it's over. The statue shatters. It falls to the ground. Indeed. Imagine that before you did this, you tied a thick nylon thread and secured it tightly. On this statue is like a fern hook on the ceiling. Then you come again and cut one leg of the table. The table shakes, the statue remains. Cut the second one and the statue stays. You can cut all 4 legs. The legs of the table, the statue stays, you know why? It just grazes the table. It is supported by something up above. So the human being, the professional, is the same thing. You come onto a table, how many people? Life comes and cut a leg of the table. A divorce, it collapses. If, besides the divorce, there comes, I don't know, the loss of a position, the loss of a job, few remain standing. But there were, dear ones, in history, men whose lives came and cut all four legs of their table, and they remained standing. Certainly, their point of support was not below, it was above. And it was within. These individuals had contact with that higher sphere, which Pressfield mentioned, which is so characteristic of the professional. And there is one more thing. A man who does not rely on the table, just grazes it, because his point of support is above, is a man who can even start making history. He can prevent the legs of this table from being cut. Why? Because there are other people on top of that table. So, instead of being a pawn in the hands of the table becomes a pawn in his hands. He begins by writing history himself. There is an interesting philosophical maxim that says that awaken men. Similar to Pressfield's professional, they write history. The alienated usually don't even read it. And this is a very sad fact to acknowledge. In other words, he has an emotional balance that allows him to face difficulties with much more dignity than the amateur, who is so unstable and depends on so many things from the outside. He says that the practice of a professional is like a ritual. He describes this in The War of Art. It is the most beautiful thing, where he says he places his inspiring objects, goes there and sweeps the carpet, so that when the muses enter, they don't soil their garments. What a beautiful thing! A ceremony, indeed. Even read a prayer, the hymn of invocation to the muses by Homer. A ceremony. The sacred, according to Myceliade, who was a great philosopher of the last century, sacredness is the function of giving meaning. When you start doing things as a sense of life, as a way to give meaning to your life, that is sacred. Your work is sacred, and the circumstances surrounding this work are a right. So he says that practice involves a ritual. It can be defined as a daily and responsible exercise of dedication, will, and intention for the pursuit of an excellence that allows us to enter into communion with something greater than ourselves, in such a way that it is about achieving excellence. At one point, we serve as a channel through which our higher voices can bring beautiful things to the world, just things, good things to the world. We are a channel. In other words, we practice with all that ceremonial element, but ensures we do not forget in whose name we are working. In other words, it is a sacred craft, indeed, a sacred duty, our right. So, it is important to explain that perseverance and consistency are not the same thing. Perseverance is always still, consistency is always remembering why you do things. Stop the scene. Why am I building this chair? Oh, because it is cheap and I don't make a lot of money? No, I am building this chair because I want people to have a little more comfort. I want there to be an object that beautifies their life and at the same time. Everyone involved in making this chair is so enthusiastic about the idea that they are growing along with the chair. In other words, I have a greater purpose. Do you understand? Every moment you pause and can recover the reason why you do things. Ultimately, where do I want to go with this in my life? This act, this moment, is not isolated. It is connected with the purpose of my life. Perseverance, always doing. Consistency, always remembering why you do it. Hence the need for the right. To have elements and a behavior that evoke a certain posture in you. Imagine something interesting. When you are sitting in the chair, alone, relaxed, sometimes we relax a bit too much and do not have a very proper posture, sitting there all slouched. Suddenly, someone you respect walks into the room and you immediately straighten up, automatically. You adjust your posture. Why? You know there is a way that is appropriate for being in contact with someone you truly admire, someone you truly respect. It is not a formality. It is that what this person represents to you. It is connected to the way you composed yourself. Form holds a very significant meaning. Therefore, if I am like Pressfield or Ryder, if I have my entire workspace organized with those elements that are symbols that bring the inspiration, this is a highly suitable way for you to channel something worthy, something you respect, something that deserves to be shared with the world. There is even a tale that's quite interesting. Those who follow me must have heard it 1,000 times already. And it is said that there was a king who had a dream, and he called a soothsayer, and this soothsayer, his advisor, said, "Look, this dream is a disaster, your majesty." "Why? What does this dream mean?" "This dream means that you will witness the death of all your relatives and loved ones." "Wow, that's terrible. How can you tell me something so horrible like that?" "Guards, give this man 10 lashes." And he orders another advisor to be called. The advisor approaches him. He tells the same dream, and he says, "Wow, what a dream, but what a good omen. How wonderful, your majesty." What does the dream mean? It means that you will live longer than all your relatives, friends, and loved ones. Ah, how wonderful. What a promising thing. Guards, give this man 10 gold coins. But the first one was outside and heard it, and he was furious. When the second one comes out, he says, "What is this?" "That you're a scoundrel, a hypocrite." "Why? Why am I a scoundrel?" "You said the same thing I did. I got 10 lashes, and you got 10 gold coins." And then the second advisor tells him, "Look, you have to understand that the truth is like a precious stone. And as such, it is the most worthy and noble gift you can give to someone. However, one thing is to take that stone, place it in a little box, wrap it beautifully, and present it along with a flower. Another thing is to take that stone and throw it in someone's face. Even though it is precious, it is still a blow. In other words, we who are in the world must concern ourselves not only with the truth, but with how you are going to employ the truth. Because in the world, forms are fundamental. They must be worthy of their conscience. This has everything to do with what Pressfield is talking about here. I want to channel something noble that gives meaning to my life. Everything has to be very well organized for this. Clean, organized, and inspiring. That is why it is something I always talk about, and I think it is extremely important. You're not as valued today. The idea of the symbol. Once I walked into a home decor store that had 2 floors full of objects. I left there extremely frustrated because there was nothing that symbolized anything. There were glass, Murano, twisted in various colors. Nothing can beat anything, nothing. I thought, what sense does it make to place a mute object inside your home? Decoration means exactly bringing to light the heart of things. If you place a swan before me, I will look at that swan and think, well, the waters of the material world, there is a more beautiful way to glide over them, more noble, without losing contact with the stars, gliding over the material world without being swallowed up. By his allumations, I look at the swan and it inspires me. It is a passport, a point of contact to a reality that is inspiring to me. Therefore, when you are going to create something, Pressfield talks about this, including describing what objects are, having inspiring symbols. They are important passports. They almost inspire you, like that person you respect. A symbol also inspires respect, and it can also be a passport to elevate your consciousness and change your attitude. He goes on to talk a little bit about various characteristics of his work. Characteristics of the professional's work. He will say, done, that it is necessary to meet with your dream every day in the same place, in the same space, whenever possible, performing all that preparation ritual of cleaning, of organization. Almost as if you have something that inspires you, a prayer, read it beforehand, a ritual even, an alignment with the world of ideas. And there, every day, we will see a tremendous energy springing up around us, the energy of our best intentions, our responsibility, our dedication, our commitment. I come and take my place, and now, through me, The best ideas can flow into the world. I do not own them, but I am a good vehicle. I created the best possible conditions for my consciousness to elevate and receive this idea. Then bring it into the world, but with responsibility. In The War of Art, he talks about a writer who is asked if he wrote all the time or only when inspiration struck. He says, "No, I write only when inspiration comes, of course, but it comes every day at 9 in the morning." And that is exactly it. In other words, knowing how to create this ritual, will you dedicate your best to what you came to do in the world, to your mission? He says that, just like in mythology, there are heroes like Perseus, the Bellerophon, St. George. A professional faces their monsters every day. And probably what these myths are saying is exactly that. Face your monsters every day. Well, today I didn't make much progress, but I stayed on the battlefield. I didn't pull the pin. I didn't abandon my dream. Tomorrow, for sure, the conditions will be better. I do not abandon the battlefield. We can put intention, intensity, enthusiasm, love, everything into our work as professionals. There is only one thing that's forbidden: arrogance. Look how good I am. Look what I did. The connection ends. It is what Jung called ego inflation, the inflated ego, had room for something divine to be realized through him. Suddenly, he thinks he is the one who did it. He completely blocks access. He blocks this bamboo pipe, which will no longer release air but will release dust. So never the arrogance. The practice space is sacred. It belongs to the Mias. We took off our shoes before entering and bow with hands in prayer. How many times, when I am teaching a class, when I am reading a beautiful book, like now, the Quartus Hermeticum, I feel like telling people, folks, before sitting down to engage with these precious and transformative ideas, take off your shoes. It is not a physical posture, it is a psychological posture. And taking off the shoes, meaning that contact we have with the concrete world of banal, vulgar things that only steal life from us and give us nothing in exchange. Take off your shoes. Enter pure, queener, and you are penetrating the sacred. Sacred is the function of giving meaning. If this elevates my consciousness, bringing it closer to a higher sphere, then it is sacred. And it must be taken seriously. Because without understanding, without dedication, without responsibility, the word does not come. A teacher needs the word. A writer needs the word. Every creator needs the word. First, responsibility, understanding, respect, dedication, and thus he will have the word. And he concludes by saying the following: do you understand that you can unravel the mystery of life through order? In other words, order and the righteousness of intentions open a channel between the world of ideas and the concrete plane, and you become a bridge. Your head in the sky, your feet on the ground, and the mystery flows through you. And it illuminates the world through you, and you make a difference. I always tell a story, quite common in my lectures, that in the Battle of Marathon, the Athenians fought against the Persians, and the Persians were much more numerous. They had instructed the Athenians that if by sunset on the third day they had not returned, it numped then defeated. That the women, children, and elders who had stayed behind should take the sacred symbols and burn the city, so that the city would not be desecrated by the Persians. It so happens that, through these mysteries of history, always the mystery, the Athenians win. And it was already the morning of the third day, and they were exhausted. But someone had to run those 42 kilometers and inform the Athenians that they had won. This is the origin, including of the events of the Olympic marathon. So there was a sprinter, an athlete named Pheidippides, but he had fought alongside everyone else and was exhausted, just like everyone else. So they entrusted him with the mission. Pheidippides, run there and tell them we won. Pheidippides, exhausted as he was, he did not think twice and started running. He ran 42 kilometers, and before this evening, he came to Athens and said, Nenecaman, we won, and he fell dead. And I keep thinking about this in relation to that Buddhist saying, more than 1,000 meaningless words, a single word that brings comfort to those who hear it is worth more, our word, Nenecaman. We cannot fall without having said this word, because many Athens will be destroyed, many beautiful, good, noble, just things will be destroyed if we do not pronounce our Nina Taman. Before we fall, we must deliver our message to the world. It is a responsibility, it is a necessity. More than that, it is the calling of our soul, of what wants to be born to us. So he advises, be a professional, serve the mystery. And one of the reasons for this, one of the tools for this is to adopt order, discipline. Banish anxiety, be present in every moment of your life. Love what you do, spread your heart across the world. If you remember the Odyssey, when Ulysses returns to Ithaca and finds the suitors harassing Penelope, wanting to marry her, he asks Telemachus, his son, to set a challenge for the suitors. He sets up several aligned holes and the bow of Ulysses, which was a huge bow, extremely difficult to bend, and asks the suitors to shoot an arrow that passes through all those holes and hits a target at a certain distance. And all the suitors keep trying and failing, until Ulysses himself, disguised as an old man by Athena who protected him, takes his bow and manages to make the arrow pass through all the holes. Well, how wonderful! Ulysses had a lot of strength. He had great aim, but that is not all you see there. The arrow of our will, to reach its distant goal, all these holes must be aligned, ordered, because if one is out of place, the arrow glances off and doesn't reach its target, the purpose of our life. Therefore, order aligns all these holes so that the arrow of your will can reach its goal. That is a professional. The professional makes their work, their support base, balance, their ceremony, their rite, their way of communicating between heaven and earth. The true professional. In a certain way, they are a pontiff, a bridge between heaven and earth. Later on, he will talk to us about axioms, which is also very interesting. He says the following, there are certain axioms that are the foundation for us to advance as professionals. Besides the recipe for being a professional that he just concluded, first of all, know that practice is a lifelong journey. Do not have that anxiety of being off the, now we will pause. Yes, of course there are pauses, there is rest, there is leisure. The professional is not a fanatic. That it is not a moment where he will stop during this. No, practice, the love for work is as long as there is life. Imagine your heart coming to you and saying, there will be a time when I will stop beating. I am tired. I am bored of this. That moment will be the time of your death. Therefore, practice is a lifelong journey. I will stop being a professional when my heart, which is a het of professional, starts beating together. Before that, perseverance and consistency, decision, rhythm, and with immense love for what I do, and an immense desire to bring to light what nature expects me to reveal. So always rhythm, and the rhythm never ends. He talks about an experiment that a friend of his conducts. In the United States, which I found quite interesting, she teaches improvisation and says she has people imagine a little box, and there is a little box in their hands, and they imagine they are opening the box, and the person has to describe what is inside. Each person describes something different, a frog, a pen, and a notebook, I don't know, 1,000 things. She says it has never happened that someone opens the little box and finds nothing inside. That is interesting. He is going to say, well, when you are faced with a difficulty, know that the little box of your latent powers, of your imagination, when you open it, there will always be something inside. There are not only forces that prevent us from moving forward. Nature roots for us. She always leaves a little box within our reach, in moments of surprises, of new challenges. And there is always something inside that little box. We know this. We sense this. In times of difficulty, when we open the little box, there will be something there that can help us move forward. So, the axioms he talks about are five. First, go beyond yourself. He says that a writer, for example, is capable of creating characters that are smarter and better than himself. And this possibility exists because he does not create with his own personality. He creates by receiving inspiration from a realm, from the plane of ideas, which is far above him. Therefore, he can create things that surprise him, things that go far beyond his possibilities as a person. I have heard actors say, my characters were all much better than me. That is a bit better, isn't it? That person should have sought to grow. But the truth is that a creator inspired by his work is always greater than himself. I am a teacher for 31 years. I will tell you that my best examples were created in classroom situations. To address the anxiety of a student, the question of a student, I opened the little box, and there were always things inside. I find it impressive because sometimes I listen to a recording of one of my classes and I end up learning from myself. Wow, that is amazing. It is as if, in some way, when you take on this priesthood that is teaching, you position yourself as a channel and gain access to ideas, to solutions, when you love what you do and fully dedicate yourself to things that are greater than you. Then you keep listening and learning from yourself. That is very interesting. Therefore, his first axiom is that the professional goes beyond himself. His work surpasses him. And this is more than proven or provable. His second axiom is write about what you don't know, create about what you don't know. That is a very interesting thing. He says that in a difficult moment in his life, at a crossroads in his profession, he does not know why he was inspired to write about an incarcerated person, a prisoner, in a prison, imprisoned in a place for a long time. And he had never even visited anyone in prison. He did not even know what it was like. And he embraced that proposal from his imagination and wrote a script with that idea. He dove deep and took everything his imagination suggested. When he presented this script to people, to his friends, they would pull him aside and ask, Pressfield, when were you in prison? In other words, the power of imagination, perhaps he saw even more symbolic details than someone who was actually there. In other words, move forward. Don't just keep repeating those cliched little things you have managed to capture from life, because it always offers you so much more. Move forward. Venture into the unknown. Ask questions to life. Be fearless, be brave. Venture into the mystery. Take from there things you can bring to the world, bringing benefits to yourself and others. Move forward on bad days. In other words, today, he always says there is a knot in the middle of a book, which is that most difficult chapter. While other chapters, he writes in a certain amount of time. In this one, he will write in a time 10x or more. He says, look, on good terrain, you move forward, 60, 80 kilometers per hour. On bumpy terrain, you go at time, but you do not stop. In other words, today the day is bad. I am not inspired. I am not managing to move forward. Well, I will draw two lines, but I want standstill. Do not lose the rhythm. Your heart cannot stop for a day or you die, but don't lose the rhythm. I insist, I adjust. The speed, the potential of these days, that it does not hold me back. Play heard, another very important tick. What does that mean? Today I am so sad. Such a thing happened. I won't produce. It does not matter. I will do my job. Today I don't know. I have a sore throat. Unless it is a debilitating illness that puts you in bed, keep moving forward. What is more common is that people feel so shaken by the small conjectures of life that anything stops them. So, logically, they will always be held back. because all the time, circumstances that are not very pleasant are happening. The true professional takes 2 aspirins and keeps working. If he has to stop, he must be at complete peace with his conscience, because in that condition, it truly was not possible. Because if there is a chance to give, I do a little, then I keep moving forward. He will say, Ben, that our duty on uninspiring days is to maintain composure and keep working. Keep writing, keep composing, keep filming. Athletes play hurt, warriors fight with fear. The professional takes 2 aspirins and moves forward. Don't be so susceptible, whatever the circumstances may be. Well, in a Dane, many times, an athlete is injured and stays on the field for their team. Wouldn't we do that for our dream, for the mystery, for the possibility of reaching our human ideal? Of course, we would. This is a grand purpose for us to be stopped by very small things. Stay in the saddle. He tells that he is a friend who works with jumping over obstacles with horses, and says that the greatest terror is sometimes when you look at that wall in front of you and see a huge animal heading towards it, the desperate fear it brings. You feel like jumping out of the saddle. She says, stay in the saddle, focus on what you are going to do. Whatever it is, do not entertain the possibility of jumping out of the saddle. This will weaken you and generate panic. I don't know if you understand that if we open an escape route in our minds, we risk losing everything. Our kids, when they don't want to go to school, it is funny, isn't it? If you even slightly entertain the possibility that if he has a sore throat, he won't go to class, he will end up with a sore throat. The mind enters this possibility with everything that makes it happen. And so we adults also will fall into the same childish trap as our children. If I have the slightest possibility of not doing my work that day, that thing will happen. Because resistance will come in full force, and it will create that possibility. So you cannot admit it. No matter what happens, I will stay in the saddle. I will look at my task and focus my attention there, because then generally nothing happens. If I say, come what may, I will not let go of the saddle, nothing will happen. In this poem, Ithaca, which I asked you to read, right at the beginning of the poem, it says, look, neither the Laestrygonians, nor the Cyclopes, nor the fierce Poseidon will appear on your path if you do not carry them within you, if you do not place them in your way. In other words, if I do not carry within me the possibility of pulling the pin, the need to pull the pin won't arise. So stay in the saddle. Do not open cracks of possibilities to give up, because you will give up. Resistance will push you towards that escape route if you leave the door open. Continuing, he will say that he has his own way of connecting with these invisible powers, these muses, these forces that are eager to deliver their message to the world, through your voice, through your name, through your words. He knows that there is resistance, but there are also benevolent forces. Rooting. In The War of Art, he talks about this in a very beautiful way. The muses were whispering the Fifth Symphony into 1,000 ears, but only Beethoven was able to hear and make it real. In other words, these forces are rooting for you. And when you present your resume as a serious, responsible, professional person, they invest in you. Then inspiration whispers in your ears, and you fulfill yourself and the world's needs. Because a man's fulfillment always aligns with the needs of many others. There is no chance. The world is not chaos, it is cosmos. A man's fulfillment aligns with the needs of many others. When you feel the need to offer, you can be sure that there are many people in need of receiving. And in fulfilling yourself, you bring great value to the world. Humility, discipline. Effort of the mind and effort of the will. He mentions that in the Hebrew world, in the Jewish tradition, there is a code of discipline called Musar. This code of discipline states that the main aspect of the war is to identify sin and eliminate it. He translates this in the following way: disciplined, humble, and open effort of the mind and will. Once you locate the resistance, strike, and never expect that you have defeated the resistance. It will be waiting for you at every breakfast. Once you identify an element that you notice, no matter how disguised it is, trying to divert you from the path of your fulfillment, strike. In other words, without hesitation, if there is a cockroach sitting on your arm, do you look at it and say, I will get rid of it in a bit? No, there is even a word for that, right? Ah, throw the cockroach far away. In other words, zero tolerance for the cockroach on your own. Zero tolerance for anything trying to steal the mission of your life. Once you identify a plea the muster code, cut it out. Don't think with this, you will eliminate resistance because it is a force of nature that will fight with you till the last breath, so that you die in the penultimate one. That you become an increasingly better warrior with a greater ability to recognize and eliminate the fantasies and disguises of resistance and to eliminate them more swiftly. You keep fighting better and better. The clash that happens within us, that is why he is so fond of that Indian epic, the Bhagavad Gita. Steven Pressfield read a book, which is the Legend of Baggervance, which is nothing more than an adaptation of the Bhagavad Gita to the 20th century. Baggervance is the Bhagwan Krishna, while Ranulph Jana, the hero of the film, is Arjuna, the disciple. If you watch it in Portuguese, it is called Legends of Life. This movie, featuring Matt Damon and Will Smith, is an adaptation based on Pressfield's book, The Legend of Baggervance. The Bhagavad Gita is an inner struggle between our Kauravas and our Pandavas, between our vices and our virtues, between our need for fulfillment and resistance. In essence, that is what it is all about. We came here to successfully fight this battle and deliver what we came to give to the world. We cannot fall without saying our Nanakin. The clash is epic and internal, he says. As Jung would say, between the ego and the self. What is at stake are our lives and the lives of the people around us, and add value to the world. Justify the investment that nature has made in us. And our life, as I have already mentioned, costs nature. We should give back to it more than we receive. We should align ourselves with its purposes and walk side by side, helping it fulfill its goals. And then he mentions the hero's journey, which we know as the monomyth, found in Joseph Campbell's work, The Hero with 1,000 Faces. He says the following: the traveler first faces a call, resists, then he is pushed. Someone pushes his little cow off the cliff, and that is when the journey begins. He faces difficulties and, by overcoming them, he grows until he encounters the main suffering, the greatest danger, and he passes through it, manages to be victorious, is reborn, victorious, and returns home, bringing the elixir. This elixir, it is the learning he gained from his journey to share with everyone in the world where he finds himself. The monument is human life. It's the journey of the professional. And it will say that the traveler returns home after years of exile, struggles, and hardships, and gives a gift to the people. This gift is what the hero saw, endured, and learned. That it is not raw material are not things. It is the ore refined into gold by the hands. Skillful and loving hands of the hero, the traveler, the artist, the professional. He does not bring things to give as gifts. He brings a life experience, which is the philosopher's gold. It is a way to make the journey of those who follow him much less painful, to fall into fewer pitfalls. Those who follow him do not have to start from scratch. They already know the recipe to overcome a series of obstacles along the way. And this is the quest to the professional. And finally, I conclude our conversation, which has gone on a bit long, with those phrases of his that I loved so much. The pain of the human being is that we are all angels trapped in vessels of flesh. Understand this. You do not have to sacrifice your vessel of flesh. It is a vehicle. It is useful if you master it. Like that vehicle that is parked in my garage. It is very useful and I take care of it. But I master it. It does not take me wherever it wants. It takes me where I want to go. If I have a goal, I have a purpose. This vehicle takes me there. It is the same with this vehicle of ours here. Let's not be slaves to it. Let's not let it take us wherever it wants, you see. The pain of the human being is that we are all angels trapped in vessels of flesh. The vessel serves the flower, not the other way around. Free yourself and pave the way. This is, then, the set of instructions he leaves us to be professionals. Be careful with that popular saying that one swallow does not make a summer. It is always one swallow that goes ahead and shows that summers are possible, so that the others then feel encouraged and follow after. It is always one swallow that proves it is possible to be a professional, so that the others then, based on this example, follow and pave the way. That is how summers are born. It starts with a swallow that envisions a summer in its horizon of possibilities. That is the professional. Thank you very much. And I hope that our chat serves as a source of many reflections for you all. A big hug to everyone.